What is up, everybody? I am Justin. I'm joined with Nick.
Hello.
And in today's podcast, we will be looking back at the Week 9 games. And Nick, you want to start things off?
Yeah, the first game was the Carolina Panthers defeated the Green Bay Packers 37-29, excuse me. The game looked like a blowout, but the Packers did come back and make it a game. Aaron Rodgers bounced back, and some people even thinking about sitting him, but he did post 4 touchdowns. But what I want to ask you about is James Starks. He had 39 yards and no rushing touchdowns, and Eddie Lacy really struggled. What do you think of the Packers rushing attack?
James Starks was definitely a lot more productive than Lacy. He had even though he only had 39 rushing yards, he caught a couple of screens. He even got into the end zone on a screen, and he had a good game, a lot more effective than Lacy. Don't be surprised if he starts to get a bigger share of carries. He's definitely worth a waiver wire pickup. Probably one of the bigger waiver wire pickups of the week, because I definitely think if Lacy continues to struggle, I think they're just going to start giving him more and more carries.
Yeah.
And you know how hard it is to get that RB, like starting running back in the league right now.
And Cam Newton, he threw for 297 yards, 3 TDs, and ran one in. Is he now a must-start quarterback, even with the lack of wide receivers?
He's definitely become a must-start, unless you have, like, some way, somehow, you got, like, Rodgers and Cam that maybe try to deal Cam Newton or Rodgers or one of them. But if you don't have another elite guy, and if you do, I would try to trade him, like I said. But if you don't have that elite guy, he's definitely a must-start.
Yeah, he's doing this with the lack of receivers, and that's great.
Yeah. Moving on to the next game, the Pats defeated the Redskins 27-10, and unfortunately, Dion Lewis torn his ACL, and a lot of injuries are occurring lately. What do you think about James White?
James White, I think he's going to take on the role that Dion Lewis had. I think he's going to be catching a lot of passes. I'm definitely going to try to go out and pick him up in my leagues. I think you should too. Even if you're not weak at running back, he could be trade bait for you. I know your trade deadline might be coming up, or he's going to be that solid flex each week.
I agree. A lot of people don't think James White was going to be the guy because he wasn't activated last week. But Dion Lewis is kind of the similar type of guy, so they really didn't need him. But expect a bigger game and more touches from LeGarrette Blount moving on, and James White will touch the ball, maybe catch a lot of passes in a PPR league.
Yeah, they definitely have a similar skill set.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a flex option. I don't think he's going to be a great like RB2, but I definitely think he'll be a flex option depending on the matchups.
Yeah, moving on to the next game, Tennessee Titans defeated the New Orleans Saints 34-28, and Drew Brees continued on his nice roll after struggling a little bit out of the gate. Now, you think he's back to his elite quarterback status that he was going into the season?
Drew Brees has struggled, like you said, at the beginning of the season, but after throwing 7 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns this week, I think he's definitely starting to heat things up again. You see Mark Ingram didn't have such a big game. Willie Snead had 95 yards, but the guy I want to talk about is Delaney Walker. He had 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. I know one was ricocheted off of 2 Saints defenders. He's not going to put up numbers like he did this week, but I definitely think he's emerging as a mid-tight end one that you can trust week in, week out.
Yeah, I definitely think he's a solid tight end no matter what. And looking at the backfield of the Titans, Antonio Andrews, that backfield's really been a mess. But this week, Antonio Andrews was clearly back, 88 yards, no touchdown.
Antonio Andrews has been doing it a couple weeks in a row. I think he's emerging as a solid flex option every week now, maybe even that low RB2, depending who else you got.
Moving on to the next game,
the Buffalo Bills defeated the Dolphins 33-17, and Sammy Watkins, who was supposed to be on a snap count, he really had a big day, 168 yards and 1 touchdown. What do you think about that?
I think he's a really boom or bust. All throughout his first 2 seasons, he's been boom with a really big week or bust. Like early in the season, he put up a 0, then 19. So he's really boom or bust. But looking at Lamar Miller, 44 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not a lot of yards rushing because they had to throw the ball.
But he started a big day with those 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, 97 receiving. So do you think he's an RB1 under Dan Campbell?
He's getting his touches to be an RB1. I think he's a low RB1. He's been doing it. He's been really hot since Dan Campbell came in, once he's been getting his touches. But LeSean McCoy had a good game until he went down with an injury. Do you think if he doesn't play, Carlos Williams against a tough Jets defense is a good start?
Yeah, I think if McCoy plays, he's an RB2, and I think if doesn't play, Carlos Williams is an RB2, even against the tough Jets defense. These guys are playing too well to bench.
I think if he doesn't play, he's a great guy you could start, even with the tough matchup. Because, like we said, if you have McCoy, you probably don't have a lot of other good backs, so you probably have to start him. But if McCoy plays, I wouldn't really play him. It's a tough defense. McCoy will get his touches. I think Carlos Williams won't get enough touches against a tough run defense to be productive.
Yeah, moving on, the Minnesota Vikings defeated the St. Louis Rams 21-18. Stephon Diggs really stalled this game. Do you think he's losing some of his value if Teddy Bridgewater stays hurt and doesn't play?
If Teddy Bridgewater doesn't play, definitely he loses some value. But I think with Teddy Bridgewater does play, he's still a wide receiver 3 with major upside.
Yeah, he's going to have those big weeks here and there. And as usual, Peterson and Gurley proved to be typically dominant. 125 yards, 89 yards, and each put up a TD.
Moving on to the Jets, they defeated the Jacksonville Jaguars 28-3. And the Jaguars defense has really been fantasy relevant again. Blake Bortles, 381 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he's really been a great waiver wire pickup. Do you think you could start him every single week?
Yeah, I think he's definitely a must-start, right along with Allen Hurns, who put up 122 yards and a touchdown. Also, Allen Robinson, both receivers, and Blake Bortles have been really good. Bortles, I think, is a mid-QB1, and Allen Hurns and Allen Robinson, I think, are both great wide receiver 2s.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Allen Hurns really been catching fire. I definitely think he's a wide receiver 2. And Allen Robinson didn't have a big day, but he was also going up against Revis. He'll definitely bounce back.
Yeah, moving on, the Pittsburgh Steelers in a thriller defeated the Oakland Raiders 38-35. D'Angelo Williams bursted onto the scene, kind of like Le'Veon Bell. He put up numbers like Le'Veon Bell, 170 rushing yards, 2 TDs. Also added 43 passing yards.
Unfortunately, Ben did go down, and after a great week, Antonio Brown had 284 yards. He had like 17 receptions. Antonio Brown's value probably does go down a little bit. Well, most likely his value is going to drop. He was a top wide receiver with Ben. I think he's probably going to come down to a wide receiver too. We saw how he was producing
really
with Big Ben out. So I definitely think his value drops a lot. But hopefully Ben could come back soon. And Derek Carr, once again, 4 touchdowns. He's been really hot. But Michael Crabtree, 2 touchdowns, 108 yards. This is a guy who's really been bursting onto the scene. I definitely think he's emerging as a wide receiver too. He's been doing it a couple weeks in a row now.
Yeah, he's been solid throughout the whole season. If you grabbed him on your waiver wire, you basically picked up an RB2 for nothing.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next game, the New York Giants defeated the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 32-18. The Giants' backfield stalled as usual. Is there anybody you could start from here?
I wouldn't trust any Giants running backs right now. You don't know who's going to lead the share. You don't know anything, and even the Bucks backfield really didn't produce. They both had rough days. Charles Sims did have 78 yards, but odds are he was starting Doug Martin, who struggled a little bit.
Yeah, what do you think of Doug Martin going forward? Some people had him as an RB1 after those 3 big weeks. Do you think he stays like that? Or?
I think I would trust him more as an RB2 right now.
Yeah, and then Mike Evans, he set the record since 2005 with 6 drop passes, but he still did have 162 yards.
He still had a good day fantasy-wise. But a guy who did struggle was Eli Manning. He had 2 touchdowns. His day would have been a lot worse. But after a huge week against New Orleans, we kind of were expecting more against the Bucs defense. Do you think he gets back on track?
I think he does reestablish himself as a low-end QB1.
Moving on to the 49ers, they defeated the Atlanta Falcons. Blaine Gabbert went in there and defeated the Atlanta Falcons. You don't think he has any fantasy value?
No, right? Unless you're in a 2-quarterback league and you're really in a deep 2-quarterback league and you're really bad at quarterback. Maybe he's a QB2, but other than that, no fantasy.
Devonta Freeman struggled in the run game, only 12 yards, but he did his horrible day. He made up for it a little bit more in the passing game.
Yeah, he did still have a receiving touchdown, but I really don't like the Falcons' offense going forward unless it's Julio Jones.
You don't think Devonta Freeman's...
I don't think he continues his RB1 pace. I think he falls a little bit more into the RB2 rankings going forward. Especially in playoff time, he's going up against the Panthers twice. Moving on, Indianapolis Colts defeated Denver Broncos 27-24. And Andrew Luck is now, we know, supposed to be out 2 to 6 weeks. How does that affect the rest of the Colts offense, like Gore and the rest of the receivers?
I don't think it's going to affect Gore much because I definitely think he's going to get more touches. But T.Y. Hilton, it's going to probably bring their value a little bit down. But Matt Hasselbeck, he went in there and played great while he was a starter.
And the Sunday night game was the Philadelphia Eagles defeated the Dallas Cowboys 33-27. Jordan Matthews caught the game-winning touchdown and Thriller. He bounced back big time. You think he's a wide receiver too going forward?
I definitely think he's a wide receiver too. He struggled after his first two big games in week 1 and week 2. He started to struggle a little bit, but after that bye week, I think that he really needed that bye week. They said he hurt his hand, but I definitely think he's back on track after Sunday Night Football. I definitely think he gets back on track and continues to be a wide receiver too for you.
Yeah, and lastly, the Monday night game, the
Chicago Bears
defeated the San Diego Chargers 22-19. The Chargers' rushing attack struggled. Danny Woodhead only 33 yards, and Melvin Gordon fell under 30
Danny Woodhead
yards.
did have a receiving touchdown, though. Danny Woodhead has been a really big force in that offense in the passing game. He's a huge PPR target for them. He's a great PPR play. I think he's a low RB2 in PPR plays. Jeremy Langford looks great in Matt Forte's absence, 72 yards, a touchdown. He had a couple big catches. Also, Alshon Jeffrey continues to be a wide receiver 1. And Jay Cutler and Phillip Rivers both had good games.
Yeah, I think Phillip Rivers might be there. Phillip Rivers top 3, yeah.
But that will do it for us. If you have any questions, tweet us at FF in the Zone, and we will make sure to answer it. Thank you for watching, and peace out.